This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And welcome to the latest, the freshest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Jerome Chirco, alongside my usual sidekick and partner in crime, that is the Doc from Doc and Jock. His name is John Charles Macaroon, and we have two in-studio guests with us, some local Detroit musical acts, and Jaliyah and Jamyla Turner. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us. Hi.
Well, very good to have you guys in studio. And the first ones, as I said before to you guys, to come into the studio to record a rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Mm-hmm. So it's a pleasure having you guys in studio for that purpose today, too.
Pleasure to be here.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys big baseball fans? Fans of the Detroit Tigers?
Yes.
We do. Yes, we love them.
How many games do you guys get a chance to go to every single year?
So far, I've been to 2.
Yeah, we've been to 2.
Okay,
Yeah.
So far so good. I mean, right now, as we sit, 18 wins, 18 losses, could be much worse. But for you ladies, you guys obviously have a musical background. Tell us and our audience a little bit about how you got started in music and how this kind of evolved.
Well, we've been singing since we were kids. Yeah. We're a duo, so we always sing together. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten started because we have such a musical family. We're the cousins of Donald Davis, Martha Reeves, Mariah Carey, and Bobby Rush.
Yep.
Who are those guys? Never heard of them.
Bobby Rush is a blues and jazz singer.
Mariah Carey.
Everybody.
They're all pretty talented and well-known in their own right?
Yeah.
They really are. Mm-hmm. And some Dancing in the Street
That's
with Martha Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that song a lot.
We love it. Yeah.
And now, Jaliyah, you go to Michigan State.
Yes, I do.
Jamyla, you go to Wayne State.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about what you guys are doing, what you guys are studying in school, too. Jaliyah first.
Okay, well, I am at Michigan State, and I'm studying to be a nurse.
Okay.
So that's like a plan B after music.
It's a nice plan B.
Yeah.
And a good one, too, for a good cause as well. And you can make a good living doing that, I know, as well. Jamyla?
Well, I go to Wayne State, and I'm studying nursing as well.
There we go. Look at it. Doing things together with that as well.
Yeah.
And you guys always have, huh? You guys have, you said, since you were very young, always have performed together. And
Yes.
anything ever by yourselves without one another?
Well, we've done some performances.
At school.
Yeah, alone
Those type of
talent
events.
shows and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But we're mainly a package deal.
Yeah.
And now I heard from your dad, now Mr. Reggie Turner, a great guy who helped hook up this interview, this segment today in studio. He was telling me, too, that you guys went to the second round of American Idol.
Oh,
We-
yeah.
And The
Yes.
Voice as well.
Yes.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Now set the scene. How did you guys go about auditioning? What was it like? Because I obviously have heard that American Idol's coming back now.
Yes.
Yes.
Next year, I believe, on ABC, it's going to be rebooted. The Voice, widely popular. So you got in and take us through it.
Well, it was a wonderful experience. The Voice and American Idol. Lots of people singing
Whole lot
everywhere.
of
It was overwhelming.
It was a good experience.
Yeah, and we got to record for our second round at United Sounds,
Which is our cousin's studio.
Donald Davis studio, which was pretty cool. It was a really good experience. It was a lot of work.
So your first audition, who do you send your audio to? Who's listening to your music the first go round?
The first go round, it's like a panel of 6 or 7 judges, and that was for The Voice. It was at Cobo Hall. Yeah, and for American Idol,
It was at the Ford Field.
Ford Field.
What was tougher to go through? What was more nerve-wracking?
The most nerve-wracking part was the first audition when you were surrounded by everybody and you could hear everybody singing. That was really nerve-wracking.
For me, it was the second round because we had to learn like 6 songs, and that was just like the make or break round. Less people, more competition, that kind of thing.
Now, what show was tougher, though? American Idol or The Voice?
Definitely The Voice.
I agree. Yeah.
Now, why is that?
I felt like we had to do more.
It was a lot more.
It was more to it versus American Idol. We just went in, did it, and left.
It was
And-
like 4 rounds before you actually go to Hollywood. American Idol was only like 2.
Yeah, it was so different. And it was more preparing for The Voice than American Idol. American Idol, we just got a song and went.
Yeah.
And The Voice, we had to actually practice, and have multiple songs, different genres and stuff. So that was definitely more.
Now, is there one of you guys that is more the leader that kind of revs up the engine or lifts up the spirits and the other is down, or is it a two-way street with that to get each other on the same page and kind of motivated and energized and feeling good about what you guys are doing as a duo?
Okay, I don't. It can go both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Because sometimes I might feel less motivated and she'd uplift me. More so now, I'd probably be the one that's less motivated and she's uplifting me. But previously, it'd be me motivating her. So it can go both ways. I guess it just depends on how we're feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have it where you both can support each other, get each other going when you need that uplifting. So
Yeah.
that's very impressive on both of your guys' behalfs. And Jamyla and Jaliyah, you guys had said that you went to 2 Tigers games already. I wanted to get back to that really quick.
Yes.
That's pretty good because I haven't been to one, and I host this podcast. How sad is that?
Wow. You
Yeah,
gotta go
that's
to a
not-
Tigers
I
game.
gotta get to
get
one and get to
there.
one quick, I think. And the Tigers, you know what? They're tough to watch at times. They're very, very tough to watch at times. But the reason why you guys are in here is to record a rendition of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So we wanted to ask you, who's a role model or a few role models of yours?
We love Phyllis Hyman. She's like an inspiration to
Yes.
us. Her music, she makes really beautiful, clean music that a lot of people can relate to.
And Martha Reeves, of course.
Martha Reeves.
Have to bring up Martha Reeves, the legendary Martha Reeves. And you guys emphasize, now your dad had said it before too when I was talking to him about you guys, that you guys really emphasize the clean music,
Yes.
appropriate music as well, and pop and R&B, correct? That's really what you're trying to get into
Yes.
and become experts at in terms of singing. Oh, very good. Very good. Doc?
Where did you guys, hone your skills? Obviously, you guys have natural talent. Your voice is amazing. But where did you guys go? Did you guys get musical classes? Did you go to your family members? How did you guys train those lovely voices that you have?
Church choir.
Yeah, we've
A
been in
lot through the church.
church choir. We've been in a lot of different theater groups.
Mosaic, youth theater.
and DYC, Detroit Youth
Yep.
Choir, and
And you guys have performed at the DIA
Yes.
as well. And now, when did you guys start performing in the choir? How long ago was that?
Oh.
maybe over 12 years
Years
ago.
ago, yeah.
We've been singing for years.
Oh, wow.
Well, I think Doc and I, we can tell, and I think the listeners too will be able to tell once they listen to your rendition of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at the end of this week's episode. And another thing I wanted to ask you guys is, when you guys sing, who do you think you sound like? Do you think you sound like somebody, and do you want to sound like somebody, or do you want your own tune, your own sound?
Own tone.
We want our own sound, but we want to bring back that
Old
good
school.
music
Old,
like that.
How the music was back in the day.
Everyone
it
can
changed
relate
a lot.
to. We don't feel like it's the same anymore, and we don't feel like a lot of people can relate, especially in the pop and R&B genres of music. There's only certain music that people can relate to, like gospel, or we want to bring back music without falling into a certain category
Yeah.
that everyone can relate to.
Now, when I was going to school, it just started with the whole save the arts. And when we look at it now, growing up education-wise, a lot of the things that get cut first in schooling is like music, art, and things like that. Growing up with you guys, did you guys start noticing that academically-wise it was challenging to get musical education, or have you guys advocated for the continuation of saving the arts? Because just by you guys singing, it made me feel good to hear lovely voices. And I work with so many artists who tell me, look, it's important. And when we look at the money aspects of it, or we look at other things, the arts are very important. And I tell people, look, you have the opportunity to grow musically, to use other sides of your brain. Now, I can't sing myself, but to hear lovely voices, to hear talented people and those that are in the arts, it's worth saving. And have you guys advocated for that? Or in your time at school, was it something that has been cut or limited with what you guys went through?
Yes,
yeah.
we feel like
A lot.
it's limiting now, and a lot of people overlook the true value of music.
Music.
They think of like the four stems math, science, and they think you have to have careers in those areas. When music is healing, like that does a lot for people. So people overlook and underestimate what music does for people and how comforting it could be for someone. Like it's a real career.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Music can calm someone's nerves.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you guys about the man sitting behind you right now, your father. Is he musically gifted at all? Can he sing? Does he have a great singing voice himself?
He actually can sing.
He can. Now, why do you say he can? He actually can sing, by the way. Why do you say it like that?
Because it's just weird, dadager singing.
And I like how you said that, by the way, both you guys, the dadager. Instead of the momager like Kris Jenner, right, for the Kardashians, you got the dadager and Reggie Turner. I like that play on words. Very fitting for Mr. Reggie. And now your cousin Martha Reeves, you guys are performing at her birthday.
Yes.
Coming up.
we are.
Where is that going to take place?
That's at the Rooster Tail.
Okay, and that's on July 18th?
Yes.
Okay, so now how can we find out more details about it? Is there like any tickets or anything like that?
She haven't put the tickets out yet because it's supposed to be on Invite, but she haven't done anything yet with it yet, but she should be doing it very soon.
And now if we want to get more information on your guys' music, where can we follow you via social media, any websites or things like that? Where can our audience find your great music?
Facebook and Instagram.
We have Facebook.
And YouTube.
It's singing artist Jaliyah and Jamyla. And also our Instagram, same thing, singing artist Jaliyah and Jamyla.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for coming in. You guys have a great singing voice. We wish you best of luck in all your endeavors. But if you guys were to make it, what would be ideal? Would it be performing artists that tour? Or what do you guys envision as being it for you guys to make it as a career in music?
We want it all. I want to win an Oscar.
Yes.
We want to win a Grammy. we want the glam. We want the glitz. We want to stay up late practicing and sleep during the day. Like we want the whole
pack.
experience.
And you guys were in a TV show already. Dadager, Reggie Turner was telling me about that. Living Nightmare?
Yes.
On TV 20. How was that experience, by the way?
Great.
It's great,
That was
yeah.
really fun.
So now I wonder, how can I one day win, an Oscar or an Emmy? Maybe you guys can help me out with that because, maybe I want to go into acting a little bit. I don't know about singing. My singing career probably isn't going anywhere. I know Doc's isn't. Mine probably isn't either. So that's why I'm doing this podcast, Tigers Talk. And guys, great stuff from you once again. All right, thank you very much for coming in, recording that great rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball Game, too.
Thanks
Thank you
for
for
having
having us.
And that was Jaliyah and Jamyla Turner, who performed a great rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball Game that will play at the very end of this week's Tigers Talk episode. What a great job by them. Hi, Doc?
Very good stuff, Vito. I enjoy talking to talented individuals. And it seems like they're very talented young individuals, and they got a great, strong family background. So be on the lookout for Jaliyah and Jamyla.
And you know what? How about all their connections? How about their cousin Martha Reeves? We might have to do a little bit of dancing in the street eventually on one of these episodes of Too Bad Hombres. A little plug for another podcast of ours under the Detroit Sports Podcast Network umbrella. And now we must look forward to the Tigers series against the Baltimore Orioles. It's the start of a 6-game homestand for the Tigers at Comerica Park, 3 against the Orioles to start off, starting the night of this recording, Doc. And the Orioles are a team who are in second place in the American League East. They've got Adam Jones, Manny Machado. They've got some good sluggers. They've got a few nice starting arms, but no Zach Britton. Now, do you remember him from last year?
The guy the pitcher, the reliever that Buck Showalter decided and declined to use in the postseason, he took a lot of flack for that, and I still don't think that he maybe, in terms of his reputation, has gotten over that in terms of the fact that how do you leave your best pitcher in a deciding game on the bench? But coming into this year, the Orioles are playing a great brand of baseball, and the Tigers are 18-18, and the series at home is going to be very important to kick it off because, they have a homestand. They want to play well, especially after a 4-5 road trip out west.
First West Coast trip, 4-5, as you said. They should have won 3 out of 4 against the Halos, right? In LA, they really should have. Only splitting, that's not good enough against this Halos team. That's not a very good squad right now in the American League West. Might end up finishing towards the bottom of the American League West. So, was I proud of the Tigers really in their West Coast trip? No. And no excuses for the Tigers being that they were out on the West Coast and for the first time this season. I don't care about that in the different time. The times for the games being different and maybe catching the Tigers off guard. I don't use that as an excuse for them, and they shouldn't either, and I hope they don't. And they probably don't. They're professional ball players, and typically these guys aren't going to just come up with excuses on the fly. But if they're even thinking of it, shame on them for why they went 4-5 on their West Coast trip, Doc.
But when you look at it historically, in the past few seasons, the Angels have done some damage against the Tigers, even when the Tigers had successful seasons. And so I'll even argue that, you know what, if it was going to be a split, and we kind of talked about it, kind of expecting it was going to be a split, you still had
You might have expected it.
I thought it was going to be a split because of the fact that there are still some holes on the Tigers team, and you're kind of in flux with this bullpen. So to get 2 wins out of it, it wasn't bad, but there are some things that we're going to talk about, obviously, in the second half of the podcast regarding the guys that are making a ton of money and their level of contribution to the team. But when you turn over a closer, when you look at some guys that are still coming back from injury, like a JD Martinez, like a Jordan Zimmerman, the squad is not 100% firing on all cylinders. And to look at it, I still will go with the notion it could be much worse. And so for the ball club to be 500 right now, they could be right now sitting at 6 to 7 games under 500 with the rash of injuries that they have, with the fact the bullpen is in flux and they're trying to figure out who to implement. Being at 18-18 is not bad, especially when you remember, Vito, it's in May. We're still in the middle part of May. And you don't have to fire on all cylinders until at least the All-Star break. Cleveland's not running away from the Detroit Tigers. So I understand you're a little bit more skeptical, and I can be at times too. But at the time of this, I'm okay with the Tigers' record. I just wish that we could be talking about a little bit more positives and a little bit more strengths. The holes are just overwhelming, and the concern level that people have with JV, Jordan Zimmerman, the growing concern regarding Miguel Cabrera and what he's doing. There's a lot of issues people are talking about, but you and I can't discount the fact that, hey, they're being carried by guys like Ian Kinsler, by the likes of Alex Avila and James McCann when he contributes via the home run. There are still some positives and some, guys that are not so heralded that are contributing to the team, and you have to at least respect and acknowledge that.
Well, at least the Tigers now have Justin Wilson in the closer role. That's a good move made by Brad Ausmus to ditch K-Rod, who wasn't getting it done as the closer. And also, at least they have JD Martinez back now, who was the hero on Saturday night against the Halos, 2 home runs, including the game winner. Thing is, still my concern is the production, the lack thereof in terms of production from Victor Martinez in the cleanup spot. The Tigers' everyday designated hitter, who is not performing good enough to be the cleanup hitter, does not warrant, based on his production, it does not warrant him hitting cleanup. And Brad Ausmus to have the audacity to keep using him as a cleanup hitter makes no sense whatsoever to me. And right now, with JD Martinez back, you're going on a 6-game homestand. Why not insert JD into the cleanup spot? And to throw out a shameless plug for myself here, my latest article for the Detroit Athletic Company blog focuses on that very matter and on why Brad Ausmus, in order to perhaps keep his job for 2018, should make that change and make that change right now for this series against the Orioles. There is no more time to mess around. JD is a guy that should be hitting cleanup, and maybe you can make the argument too, and I even made it at times on this very podcast, Doc, that Justin Upton should have been hitting cleanup with his 900-plus OPS, should have been inserted as a cleanup hitter over Victor Martinez. Now V-Mart at this point should be bumped down all the way to the 6th spot in the Tigers' order because of the reinsertion of JD Martinez. He should be the cleanup hitter, J up in the 5th spot where he's hit all year long and superbly, and then V-Mart should be slotted in the 6th spot. That's the way Brad Ausmus should arrange his lineup, and in order to save his job, I think, he needs to do so.
So I can understand where you're coming from in terms of what you want the Tigers to do, but what is your thinking regarding the manager's mindset? Why do you think he's continuing to keep Victor Martinez in that 4th spot? Because his batting average and his on-base percentage in the month of May has been okay, but I can understand the criticism in that everything that Victor Martinez is going to contribute is either going to be a home run or a single because he just can't leg out the doubles right now in terms of his speed and what he's capable of doing. Why do you think Brad Ausmus is keeping Victor Martinez at number 4, despite what analysts, podcasters, the media, beat writers, in their opinion, otherwise? Why is Victor Martinez batting 4th?
Brad Ausmus is stubborn. Who hasn't said? Who with the right mind, a sane mind, has not said that V-Mart should be bumped down in the Tigers' order? Everybody has with the sane mind. Think about it. Outside of the manager who makes the decision to start him every single game at DH and specifically in the cleanup spot in the Tigers' order, when his production of late, even with him producing a little bit more, still does not warrant him hitting as the cleanup hitter in the Tigers' everyday lineup. It makes no sense to me, once again, whatsoever. JD should be the cleanup hitter, and you should have Justin Upton as a fifth hitter. And the reason that he's given of late, by the way, Doc, and to our listeners out there, I believe I read this from Anthony Fennick of the Detroit Free Press, the Tigers beat writer for the Freep. And he had said that Ausmus specified that the reason why he's kept him in that fourth spot is to give the Tigers a left-handed option in their order after Cabby and before the likes of Upton and J.D. Martinez in the Tigers lineup. Now, does that make any sense? Not entirely, and especially also when you consider that V-Mart cannot move. He has trouble getting to second base on a ball that is hit to the gap that should be an easy double. It is an easy double for a guy with, well, not even the most fleet of foot, but just with average speed. Guys with average speed get to second base on hits that V-Mart is not getting to second base on. He is that slow of a base runner, perhaps the slowest base runner in all of baseball. So when you hit him fourth, by the way, Doc, that means Justin Upton coming up after him and J.D. Martinez, who's hitting sixth right now in the Tigers order, those guys are trying to drive him in. But guess what? How hard is it on them to drive V-Mart in when V-Mart can't move around the bases, can't go from first to third? He can't, truly. So you've got these run producers coming after Martinez in the Tigers order, and guess what? They're not going to really produce runs when V-Mart's the guy that potentially is on base at first base. You know, think about it. He's not going to be moving around those bases very quickly, no matter where J.D., Justin Upton, that is, no matter where he hits it, and no matter where J.D. Martinez, who comes after him right now in the Tigers order, no matter where he hits it either. And that's why, it's another reason why, Doc, you got to put V-Mart as the number 6 hitter. There's no doubt about it at this point in the season.
Okay, I can respect that, but just look at what the Tigers did with the closing situation. They are kind of a team that waits till the very end until they decide to make some moves, and there's got to be a reason why they continue to want to show Victor Martinez respect. Some people will say that, look, this is a clubhouse leader, this is a guy that is a glue guy, and many people will say that keeping Victor Martinez batting fourth is a sign of respect for him. And he has contributed greatly in the month of May when people were starting and the rumors were starting and the whispers were starting that he should be removed from that spot. But I don't think that Brett Ausmus needs to look at it like it's a demotion. You got to look at it like J.D. Martinez could do a better job and produce more than V-Mart at number 4. And arguably, you put your best hitters 2, 3, 4. So J.D. Martinez, when you look at it, if he's healthy enough, is probably going to get that spot, and he just got to continue to mash and hit the baseball and show that he's recovering nicely from his surgery earlier in the year.
And the thing is also, think about this stat that I'm going to throw out there, Doc, to you and to the masses listening to this very podcast episode. JD has more home runs in 3 games leading up to this podcast recording on Tuesday of this week. More home runs in 3 games with 2 of them than V-Mart has produced in 34 games this season. How darn slow did I have to say that to drag out the point, to draw out to you, to everybody listening right now, that, guys, Ausmus is making a huge mistake by continuing to hit V-Mart fourth. No doubt about it, because of reasons already stated by me, including his lack of fleetness of foot around the bases, can't move around the bases. And guess what, guys? He hasn't hit well. He's not hitting for extra base power. He has ultimately become Singlio. If you're going to have a Singlio, hit him 6 in the order, behind JD at 4th, behind Upton at 5th. And Martinez's sub 700 on base plus slugging mark of 683 describes to you right there. You need no other reasoning for why V-Mart should be demoted in the Tigers order. And guess what? It's not a true demotion, Doc, as you had stated, because guess what? He is still being featured in the Tigers' everyday lineup. A guy with the sub 700 OPS like a V-Mart has right now, those guys end up on the bench, typically. V-Mart is not going to end up on the bench, and maybe for a lack of true replacement options on the Tigers' bench and internally in the Tigers' farm system. But the thing is, it's still not a true demotion for a guy who is 38 years old now. That is no spring chicken right there, Doc.
No doubt about it, Vito. It's one of those things where Brad Ausmus, to a fault, is loyal to his guys. Look at what he did with K-Rod. He was getting mashed back-to-back nights, Saturday, Sunday, in a series earlier this year. And hey, you decided to keep him around, and only until, the entire Tiger Nation became upset and furious did it cause a major problem. So Brad Ausmus is loyal to a fault. He'll go down with the ship, being loyal to his guys. but I do believe he is starting to see, rather how slow it is, that there are some changes that could be made to make this ball club better. But overall, 18 wins, 18 losses, you are starting to correct some of the big-time problems. But in the second half of the podcast, after this break, we got to talk about what everybody's talking about. Are the big guns, are the guys making $20 million plus contributing enough to help this team win? JV and the walks, Jordan Zimmerman and the long ball, other guys as well have to contribute more that are getting paid heavily on this Tiger team. And we'll talk about that next after this quick commercial break. Vito, let me tell you about our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I started this project in 2013, we needed a spot to take our recorded audio so that we could put it up to the internet. And the first place that I found via Google was Podomatic.com. And the reason why we use them is because it's user-friendly, the platform is super easy, and within 5 minutes after recording a podcast, you can upload your recorded audio to the internet. And then everybody, including your fans, supporters, can just push a link and boom, they can listen to your podcast. If you're looking to start a brand new podcast, a brand new project, you want to have a great host site. And there's no better one out there that Adam and I would use than Podomatic.com. That's Podomatic.com.
And back here on Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company as we near closer to episode number 100 of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. And Doc, you had mentioned a few things before this, the commercial break that just aired. And Doc, what do you have to reveal to the listeners and to I?
Now, Vito, obviously, there's such thing as water cooler talk, and everybody's kind of looking at the last performances of the starters, a unit that many people think is the strength of the Detroit Tigers. And when you look at it, you go, wow, Daniel Norris is utilizing his off-speed stuff. Michael Fulmer, his last performance was outstanding to kick off the series versus the Angels. You look at Matt Boyd, he is coming along. And then you look at the two guns, the two guys that are getting paid over $20 million per season. And you look at their two most recent starts and you go, whoa, there's some things here to be concerned about. Or at least if you're not concerned, something for us to talk about. The last couple starts from Jordan Zimmerman and Justin Verlander have kind of been head scratchers in that with Justin Verlander, the walks are up and his control has been a little bit erratic in his last two performances. You look at Jordan Zimmerman in that he was gifted a ton of runs in a victory earlier this year, but in his last couple starts, he succumbed to the long ball. And you go, uh-oh, what's going on with Jordan Zimmerman in terms of his numbers? They're not as good as they have been in seasons past. And so you say to yourself, okay, let's stop looking at the bullpen for a second. Let's stop harping on all the things that we all know to be weaknesses. And let's look at a couple guys that could also be performing well for the Tigers. Justin Verlander, Jordan Zimmerman. And on the offensive side, Miguel Cabrera in the last week hasn't contributed as well as he has been in the past. And I say to myself, oh boy, well over $70 million in salary is committed to three guys, Verlander, Zimmerman, Cabrera. And everybody's talking about it. Where are these guys? What's the issue? Can they get better? It's starting to become an issue, and I think people are keeping rational about it, but they are having the discussion, and I'm curious to get your side of things in terms of what's going down with the big dogs on the Detroit Tigers.
Well, Verlander has to curtail his walks. Now, that is freakishly bad out of Verlander, something we haven't seen out of him really ever before in a long time out of him as a starting arm with the Tigers. And he's pitched in the big since 2005. Think about it. And we haven't seen many stretches where he's walked as many batters as he has. So he has to curtail that really big time. And Miguel Cabrera, a guy like that, has to come up with just more timely hits. He is being paid immensely to produce big-time hits. And when he's not, the Tigers' order does slack. It does take a major hit. So he has to pick it up, and especially when, well, you did have JD Martinez out. Now he's back. He's hit, it's a small sample size, 3 games against the LA Angels of Anaheim over the weekend. And Upton has hit with a 900-plus OPS, really good enough to be an all-star this season. But Victor Martinez isn't hitting, probably isn't going to turn it around major. He's going to probably have an OPS of barely over 700, which means it's dire. It is a dire need from the Tigers to have Miguel Cabrera be much more of a sufficient run producer as the season progresses. If he doesn't become that once again and become close, at least close, Doc, to that all-star level run producer, then the Tigers will be in mighty big-time trouble.
Okay, so which player that I mentioned are you concerned about the least, and which one do you think maybe will not turn it around or not get back to the level that we think he should be at? Because I'm concerned a little bit about JV in that when you get older, it gets a little bit tougher. And again, he continues to try to blow by these powerful hitters with his fastball. And again, he succumbed to giving up a couple home runs. And he's gotten better at utilizing the art of pitching, but he needs to be that horse. He needs to be the guy that on a Sunday in a series where you're up 2-1 and you have an opportunity to win the series, you got to go out there and deliver. You got to go out there and be the JV of old. And I feel like everybody's assuming that it's coming. And I say to myself, oh man, I know that he starts off slow. I know that he can be inconsistent, but you're paying the man like he's Clayton Kershaw, and he's not delivering. He's not delivering to the level that we need him to at this point in time in the season.
He'll turn it around. Miguel Cabrera, I think, will as well, but not as much. I don't think he'll be an all-star this year. JV could still turn it around to be featured as an all-star arm every fifth day, at least by the second half of the season. Miguel Cabrera, now, lingering injuries might get the best of Miguel Cabrera at this stage in his career, and that's what I worry about with Miggy, that does eat him up and curtails his production. And not extremely. He'll still produce, but not as sufficiently or at as high of a level as he used to. And that's concerning for a Tigers team that has Victor Martinez at 38 years old. He's not going to turn it around big time once again. And Jay Upton, will he have a good second half? A good full season, that is, as he started off slow last year, had a miserable first half, picked it up in the second half, much better, and was an all-star performer in the second half, and perhaps the Tigers' best hitter down the stretch. But can he put together a good full season at the plate? That's going to be so damn key, Doc, especially if Miguel Cabrera doesn't produce like an all-star the rest of the way, and V-Mart doesn't turn it around enough. And what if JD Martinez gets hurt again? So Upton is so darn vital to the Tigers' success this season. But back to JV really quick. If he does turn it around as much as I think he will, becoming much more of a frontline arm once again, well, if he does, you have him and Fulmer 1-2. The Tigers get into the playoffs. Fulmer performing well right now. I think he will throughout the season. Him and Fulmer 1-2 in your rotation for a playoff series, you got to like your odds. Think about it. If they get into the postseason, but JV has to turn it around a bit. He does curtail the walks once again, and Miguel Cabrera just has to produce more often. As right now, his projected stats are 18 home runs and 63 ribbies. How lackluster is that for a guy getting paid handsomely? He cannot produce that much in a lackluster manner. Because if he does, the Tigers, that's the problem right there. That's my problem with Miggy. And Miggy, I love Miggy. I will go to bat for him, no pun intended there, all days of the week. Every day that ends in Y. Oh, that's every day of the week, right? I had to throw that in there. I just heard it yesterday. But my point is, Miggy has been an all-star performer, will go down as one of the best Tigers sluggers of all time, and will be enshrined in Cooperstown, and rightfully so, as a Tigers Hall of Famer. So you don't want to dog him too much, and you got to believe he will turn it around, but you have to get on him at least a little bit at this point, Doc. So you are right to harp on the fact that he hasn't produced sufficiently enough up to this point.
So you did the preview regarding the Tigers-Orioles series. What are you looking at? What are they going to need to do to get off to a good start in the series versus the Baltimore Orioles?
Have to beat Wade Miley Tuesday night, who's performed really well of late for the Orioles all season long, you can say, actually, early on in the season. He's facing Matthew Boyd, and Miley sports a 7.50 ERA and one lifetime outing versus Detroit. Also, you have to try to curtail the production of Manny Machado, and also, surprisingly, we have to bring up 25-year-old Trey Mancini, who I believe is Italian. And you know I like an Italian man or woman. And Mancini, who has played at first and in both left and right field this season, has also been a key offensive performer. And that's where the surprise is. In fact, he leads the O's in OPS at .918 and is second in homers with 7 and in RBIs with 20, leading into Tuesday's game against the Tigers. So you got to try to get him out when he's in the lineup, kind of their utility guy, a guy that hasn't played every single game this season for the O's, but has gotten it done when he has played. Got to find a way to get him out. Manny Machado as well, who leads the squad, the Orioles that is, in both home runs with 9 and in runs batted in with 22. So if you can stop those two guys and get out Adam Jones, who hasn't been superb at the plate thus far, but got to bring this up as well. This is because also the defensive metrics and how well these guys both get it done defensively at their respective positions. Jones in center field, Manny Machado at third base, who is the best third baseman defensively in all of baseball. And he will pick it up with the bat. I see Jones as well doing so. And both those guys, the point I was trying to get to is that both Jones and Manny Machado, as of right now, have produced a WAR of 1.1. Not too shabby from those two guys who really anchor the O's lineup. And that is going into Tuesday's game as well. That WAR of Jones and Manny Machado.
So your thinking is that the Tigers are going to rebound and play well versus the Orioles because they got a tough series versus Texas looming. They want to play well. JD's coming back to play at Comerica Park in what he called his personal opening day. I think that he's going to come out and be the MVP of the series versus Baltimore. He's going to be the guy, if I make a bold prediction this week, to come in and help this Tigers team out. Now, finally, before we get out of here, there is some talk regarding Alex Avila versus James McCann. People are wondering, okay, versus right-handed hitters, James McCann's batting average is pretty bad. His on-base percentage isn't up to snuff. And you look at what Alex Avila is doing, and he's producing. He's a guy that, as a catcher, as a journeyman, has come back to the Tigers and kind of done some things, and it's garnered some conversation regarding, well, versus right-handers, versus those right-handed pitchers, should Alex Avila be in the game much more than he is? Are you satisfied with the Tigers' current number one catcher, James McCann?
No, because all he hits is home runs like Jared Saltalamacchia last year. And how about that last team to say?
His batting
3 times
average,
fast.
His batting average, on-base percentage is not where it needs to be.
Been below 200? I mean, that's horrible. You can't have that from your starting catcher. Now, maybe he'll pick it up because he's facing, the Tigers, maybe they'll pick it up as a whole offensively, not to kind of change the direction of this conversation. But I've said before with Alex Avila, you don't want to overexpose him, though. You don't want to play him too much where he becomes overexposed and his hitting and production at the plate, specifically, becomes curtailed. If it tails off, well, you got a problem because James McCann, I don't know how well he is going to hit this season. It's not sure that he's going to hit very well, turn it around and start hitting very well. But anyways, my other conversation piece really quick regarding the Orioles series is the Tigers get the chance to face Ubaldo Jimenez. How great is that?
That's up and down, though. He's had success in his last couple outings versus the Tigers, but the Tigers in the past have also done some damage, so it's going to be a game where you can't really predict what's going to happen. Are you going to get the good Ubaldo, or are you going to get the guy that gives up a bunch of runs in the early innings?
I'll just say this. He sports a 5.49 ERA in 21 lifetime outings against Detroit. He will be opposed by Michael Fulmer, who's looked really good of late. You got to like Michael Fulmer in that matchup. Big time. And, by the way, Ubaldo Jimenez, his ERA this season is 6.15 in 6 starts. Not too shabby there from Jimenez, the former Cleveland Indian, remember, as well, who is now 33 years old. God, he's been in the majors a long time now, Doc.
Are you concerned at all regarding Shoemaker and Meyer shutting down the Detroit Tigers? The Angels pitchers kind of were surprising in that Shoemaker's been okay, but Meyer coming in and doing some things and shutting down the Detroit Tigers, it was one of those things where the TV commentators, Mario Impemba and Rod Allen, were like, this is unbelievable, where a guy that had been walking a ton of players, this Alex Meyer, he had been walking a ton of people. His performances his last couple times weren't up to snuff. He comes in and is a guy that many didn't expect for him to be on the Angels, and he comes in and he does some damage to the Tigers. Shoemaker shut down the Tigers, and Michael Trout did some damage as well throughout the entire series. But are you surprised at all at the offensive inconsistency of the 2017 Tigers, where you score 7 runs one day and 0 or 1 the next?
No, because this Tigers team has had this MO for a while. Come on, think about it. The Tigers in the past, they get it done against ace-caliber pitchers, and then when they remember facing Bruce Chen? How many times they made him look like Cy Chen? They would call him Cy Chen. He looked like a Cy Young starting arm against the Tigers, against nobody else. And the Tigers have, beaten up Jimenez when he's been a semi-ace caliber arm. Other aces in the past, like CC Sabathia, when he was an Indian himself. They've beaten ace caliber arms. They can't beat these lackluster number 4 or 5s like a Matt Shoemaker. And by the way, Shoemaker, he was the ace of the Halos last year. So I can't get on the Tigers too much, but he has pitched poorly. He was pitching poorly up to that start made against the Tigers. But it's not good. When you see the Tigers doing that, Doc, you've got to be flabbergasted, and you have to be disappointed. The Tigers have been disappointing in that respect, and guys have to turn it around. And a guy like Miguel Cabrera, who hasn't yet, and Victor Martinez, who hasn't yet, those guys have to be our busters of the week, right? Let's seg into that really quick here, too, to end this week's discussion on Tigers Talk. Victor Martinez and Miguel Cabrera, rightfully so, I think, are my busters of the week. And you know what? V-Mart, hasn't he been the buster of the week all season long, surely? And you could throw in James McCann into that mix, too, obviously.
I'll go with the obvious, Anibal Sanchez. Every single time.
You bring this up every single week.
Every single
time. Come on. Pick on somebody else now. He's a nice guy, remember. Pick on somebody else, Doc.
Well, first, it's going to be called the Anibal Sanchez Award instead of the Buster of the Week.
There we go. I like that.
The Anibal Sanchez Award for this week has to go to Anibal Sanchez. But
look at that. Really
else,
creative.
If there's somebody else that I would pick on, I would probably say it has to go to Jordan Zimmerman, a guy that has been inconsistent, and he's been giving up the long ball in the better part of his last couple starts, and we need him to turn it around real quick. So for me, the winner of the Anibal Sanchez Buster of the Week, Jordan Zimmerman.
Very nice. And another easy selection. So you went away from Anibal into another, well, Anibal's a former starting arm, but you went to a current one in Jordan Zimmerman, who's been a lackluster starting arm the whole entire season, and worthy of the Anibal Sanchez Buster of the Week award all season long as well. Now, your toast of the town, Doc, is who?
Toast of the town, Michael Fulmer. Because when you start a series, you want to set the tone. You want to prove that, okay, we're here to play. And Michael Fulmer's performance Thursday to kick off the series was nothing short of spectacular. He set the tone, pitched very well, had command of all his pitches, and he looked like the guy that everybody thought he would be. And I'm thinking that with each performance, I think he's getting better. I think that we are seeing a guy that's emerging, is not really the victim of a second-year slump, and I'm happy with what I'm seeing from Michael Fulmer. And, if he can start off a lot of series, it would be very impressive. And that's a pitcher that's kind of living up to the hype. So I've been impressed with Michael Fulmer, so he's a toast of the town, gets to see the table with the DOC.
And now, for me, the toast of the town easily is JD Martinez. In a small sample size, but playing hero on Saturday when they needed him to split. I mean, they almost lost that series, Doc. How embarrassing would that have been for the Tigers to lose a series in L.A., which, by the way, they've done that before. And I think Dan Dickerson, let's credit him, give him a hat tip here. He brought up that the Tigers haven't won a series in L.A. since like 2009. How bad is that? When you've played some bad Halos teams and you've been a good Tigers team. I mean, they won 4 straight division titles, the Tigers, at one point, made a World Series in 2012, and they couldn't win a series in L.A., who was a good team. The Angels were at one point, but right now, they're not a very good ball club outside of their man, Mr. Mike Trout, the 2-time American League MVP award winner.
Well, the team that I watched over the weekend looked pretty solid. I mean, Mike Trout got on fire. You still have also, too, Albert Pujols. And I was just thinking...
shell of his old self.
He is a shell of his old self, but he still got some pop in his bat, and he's a guy that still brings up fear whenever a guy's pitching to him. You have to be careful. But I like the Angels team. I think they do have some talent. Yes, they have some issues they got to deal with, but so do many other teams. But for me, in terms of the managerial matchup, I thought that Socha did a little bit better job than Ausmus in terms of properly using hit and runs, using his pitchers properly. So it was a fair split, 2 kind of meddling teams around the 500 mark. So it was kind of an interesting series, and we'll see how these 2 teams progress going forward.
Well, you said it right there. How will these teams progress going forward? Tigers, I think, will fare better than the Halos, but we're biased. This is Tigers Talk for a reason. And with that, I give a shout-out to all the listeners to this week's episode. By the way, I didn't even give a shout-out to the episode number yet. Episode 91. How about that? Near and nearer to episode number 100. How great will it be? We're almost there, Doc, and I'm looking forward to it big time.
Nice.
And, hey, it is a very, very nice thing, and a nice drop there, Doc. You're so talented with these drops now. You really are. And speaking of talented, we had 2 lovely ladies. Now, Jaliyah and Jamyla Turner, who performed a rendition of Take Me Out to the Ballgame for us in studio. First time anybody's done it in studio for us. They will sing their rendition at the very end of this week's episode. So they will take you out with that. Guys, enjoy and talk to you again next week.
Take me out to the ball game.
Take me out with the crowd.
Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back.
Roots, root for the home team.
If they don't win, it's a shame.
Or it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old bar.